Hello, everyone. It's nice to be with you again. Babula and I are back this time to talk about the new moon in Cancer, the language of emotions, Babula.
Indeed, it is.
Yeah. So I think it's about home and family and safety, feeling secure. What else have I got in my note? And comfort zone.
Exactly.
Yeah. So take it away and tell us about the new moon in Cancer, how we're going to play out in our lives. And
Yeah. So, as we've said before, the new moon is always the beginning of a new 4-week lunar cycle. And so the sun's been traveling through the sign of Cancer for a couple of weeks now, and the moon's come into Cancer and joining with the sun. So that's the new moon. So it really sort of sets the tone, if you like, for the 4 weeks to come of this cycle. So absolutely. One thing that's worth noting is that the moon herself actually rules or governs the sign of Cancer. So when the moon's in Cancer for those couple of days and on this new moon, she's kind of at her full power, if you like. She's sort of really at home in her own natural domain, the moon in Cancer. So yes, absolutely, as you said, Cancer's a water sign. It's all about our personal world, our intimate connections, our feelings, how we feel connected, safe, bonded, comfortable, cozy. It's winter here down in the Antipodes. So I always quite like that for us, Cancer occurs in winter when we really don't feel like going out a whole lot.
that's true. Yeah, that's very. You just want to curl up and
You do, yeah.
cozy.
Have the heaters on or the fire or whatever it is and have the slippers on. And I mean, I've spent a few days in my dressing gown at home, working and doing things, but, just, I love it. And my slippers and dressing gown and staying warm.
Yeah. So it's really about comfort.
That's right.
Yeah. And I've been doing lots of cooking.
Yes, me
and,
too.
Pottering in the veggie garden and everything around home.
Home, yes, domestics, the personal, exactly. I mean, on that, I bought a freezer about a week ago and I was so excited because I've wanted one for ages, actually. I've just thought, oh God, especially in summer, it would be so handy. So I've finally done it for all kinds of reasons. And then it just spurred me on to do a whole lot of cooking, and put things in the freezer and stock up on things. And it's very much Cancer. And I used to work in restaurants a lot years ago. And I think, people who work with food professionally in whatever capacity they do, there's usually a strong Cancerian theme in their chart.
Actually, my daughter has Sun in Cancer, so I'm very familiar with the sign. Yes. And she, when she was younger, she was, because you can have fussy eaters. She wasn't so much fussy, but she was an emotional eater in that I'd say, try, if it was something new, try this. And she'd go, no, I don't feel like eating that. Like, it's all about the feelings,
It's all about the feelings.
And she'd sort of maneuver her way through life on how she felt, from day to day, rather than the plan of action that I had.
Exactly. Yes, that's right. And because if it's not feeling comfortable, if it's not, or if it's a bit strange, Cancer likes the familiar, will happily sort of do the same thing, or if it's a favorite, I'm just being very it's a bit minor in a way, but it's not, it's real. It's like a favorite recipe, that the whole family loves. It's like pull out the favorite recipe and everybody's happy because everyone feels nurtured by this familiar, delicious thing that mums make, that's sort of painting an archetypal image and picture.
Yeah.
And so often during this time of year, all sorts of memories about our childhood past can come up, or issues to do with childhood, family memories. We suddenly find ourselves pulling out the box of old photographs or having contact with parents and family members, or there's a lot going on in the family. Has been for you, has been for me in these past couple of weeks with the sun in Cancer. It sort of brings our attention close to home.
Yeah. And it's funny because I've been having conversations about, do you remember when?
Yeah.
Like going back years gone by, like when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I'd be talking about the things that were going on in the world at the time, you know. But going back to younger time when I was living in the, you know, in the family home, and I said to someone, did you ever used to do this? Do you ever used to do that? Like as a kid, you know, do you remember those times? You know, it's sort of like it's almost like a reminiscing too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I find that with Cancer a lot. Like if you walk into the home of a Cancerian, often one of the things you'll notice, I mean, it'll be all cozy and comfortable and lovely. There's probably something cooking, but there's often family photographs all over the place.
Mm.
Whereas another person who doesn't have that energy strongly placed in their chart, like, doesn't do that.
Mm.
But, you know, this strong connection to memories, the past, family, childhood, the ancestors, you know, the grandmother, you know, all of those kinds of things are very connected to this sign.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Fascinating.
Mm.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say about my with my daughter particularly, like, you know, feeling her way through things.
Yes.
It's sort of, that energy is sort of like about letting go of the roadmaps and just following the intuition.
That's right.
You know, and just and if it and I think sometimes people get a bit confused, like, oh, if I follow my feelings, sometimes I do the wrong thing. But maybe that's not the Cancerian energy. That's a different sort of feeling energy. The Cancerian energy is more about following your intuition.
It is.
And when you do that, it's usually good. You usually end up in a good place.
Mm. That's very true. It is a very intuitive sign, and it's like this capacity, somehow this innate natural capacity to just have a sense and a knowing of what's right. And it comes back to feeling. It just feels right, and they may not be able to rationally explain why. You know, it just feels right.
Yeah. Of course, it's not great when you cook a beautiful meal and they just go, I'm not feeling it. And they don't want to eat it.
Yeah, that's not so good, is it?
And I used to say she'd change her mind every couple of days, which of course Cancerians do, you know, and it wasn't a mind, it was a feelings.
You know, it does, because it's ruled by the moon and the seas and the tides. And so it's tidal, it fluctuates. It's like every 2.5 days, the moon changes sign.
Yep.
And our moods and emotional responses shift and change with the moon, which rules Cancer. So when we're in the Cancerian period of the year, it might feel like we're sort of going through these waves of different feelings and responses. And one day it's this and then it's that. It's tidal. You know, the tide comes in because the tides are ruled by the moon and therefore the sign of Cancer. So it's the waters, you know, that watery realm that doesn't function through the rational mind and logic. It's not supposed to.
Yeah. And it's also represented by silver, the color silver, because the sun's like it, you know, and silver is very yin, and yang is the sun, and it's warm, it's hard, it's and it's an energy that is direct.
Yes.
Whereas Cancer is the opposite. It's soft. It's very curvy, like, you know, yourself, when you see Cancerians, they can be quite curvy. And I've noticed they're particularly short too in women. Have you ever noticed that?
Very often, that is true. And the only thing that would mitigate that would be if they have maybe a lot of a Sagittarius or Aquarius energy, which would elevate their height a bit. But yes, that's very true.
I've noticed that a lot, actually. And it's a very yin sort of feel, and it's like cool and dark, and it's like being outside in the moonlight on a you know, and soaking up that beautiful luminescence.
It is, and it's very, very feminine, you know, that yin feminine quality. It's not a yang masculine energy at all. And Cancerian men are usually very soft, tender-hearted. They're nurturers. They're they would, I've known Cancerian men who happily take on the role of homemaker, and maybe their wife or partner is the woman who needs to be out in the world. And, you know, he can often be the one who's very content to be at home, or maybe run a business from home, or maybe an artist or something. And home is the zone, you know, it's the home zone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else have we got about the other thing I was going to just focus on was safety, because, you know, you think about the crab, right? And the crab will withdraw into a shell or into a hole or whatever it is that it's, you know, where it's hanging out. It's and I've said to my daughter, this is the other interesting thing. I said to her recently, you know, I don't know as much about you as I'd like to as a mother. She said, that's because I'm Cancerian, Mum. You know that. And I said, yes, I do. Because she could be quite, when she was younger, she was very secretive sort of person, very private. But it actually, I realized it was private.
It's private.
Yeah, it took me a while to get that. But it's a very private person. Doesn't always reveal her feeling. Actually, doesn't often reveal her feelings when she's upset, hurt, disappointed, those sorts of things, you know. So keeps it all to herself.
That's very, very true. It keeps it close. It's like, you know, it's like it's intimate, it's personal, it's felt. And for people who have got a lot of fire or air in their chart, I've heard this many times over the years. They will often say about water signs that they're really secretive. And as a water sign myself, I kind of get what they're saying, but you're absolutely right. It's more that it's naturally private. It's a yin energy that doesn't always have to be expressing outwardly. And for Cancerian, that retreat into the bedroom and closing the door behind you is needed to process feelings, to come back to their own personal space. And then, like, it's not very helpful, like to prod the crab and try and make them come out before they're ready.
Yes,
Exactly. So, you know, someone who understands that will just leave them be, give them time, and they'll emerge again. You know, they'll just come out again when they're ready, because they've needed that time.
Yeah.
But it can feel a bit mysterious to other types who may be more naturally extroverted or high energy, that kind of thing.
And Cancer is not an initiating energy either. I find that it tends to be more, although it might be like a seed in a womb or a gestation sort of energy, but that's different to actually initiating something.
Yes.
So, but of course, people, this is pure Cancerian energy we're talking about, because everyone's chart's mixed. So Cancerians might be going, I'm not like that. Well, that could quite possibly be true, because it depends on the other things.
That's right. They might have a lot of fire in their chart or something.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
So it's so at this time and around this new moon, and of course always around a new moon, the day or two before and after a new moon is a quiet time. It is a time of just retreating. You know, the old cycle is closing down. And if we're able to just literally, in whatever way we can, close down a bit, and then we re-emerge again, usually about 2 days after the new moon. It's not always possible in the world we live in, but, you know, it's winter time. We're kind of in and out of lockdowns and so on. And, you know, if we can just close down a bit over those couple of days of the new moon, when the moon has disappeared from the night sky and it's dark, especially in the dead of winter, this is perfect if that's possible. So the new moon takes place at 18 degrees of Cancer. That might be some useful information for somebody. So it's 18 degrees, and then the moon will start to pull away. So it's the seeding of this next 4-week cycle. And one thing I will say, you know, you touched on the crab. It can snap. You know, if the crab energy feels threatened, it will withdraw. That's its instinct to do that, to protect and defend itself. Like other signs all protect and defend themselves in different ways, the Cancerian energy naturally will just withdraw. But if it can't withdraw, or if it's poked and goaded and prodded, it will just come out snapping and grab a hold and inflict a bit of pain, because it's trying to defend itself.
Yeah.
And protect itself.
Yeah. And on that point about grabbing hold, they have long memories.
Very tenacious.
It's like, emotionally, you remember when? Like, what? What are you talking about?
That's right. And love to have those conversations, getting together with family and talking about all of that. That's the realm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't forget easily. So don't rob it.
No, whereas, fire signs are like, they're always kind of moving on to the next, and certain air signs, particularly, Aquarius and so on. Yeah.
Well, that's me. I just go, oh, yeah, whatever, next.
Yeah, next, that's right.
I don't tend to hold grudges, but I think Cancerians can.
Yes, because the Aquarius and Cancer are chalk and cheese, whereas Aquarius can easily emotionally disconnect and become kind of neutral almost, and impersonal and detached. That's not how Cancer operates. It's all felt. It's all personal. And many Cancerians will often feel very easily hurt. They're very tender, and can get hurt very easily. So they have this hard shell as a kind of protection, because they feel so vulnerable in many ways.
Yeah. This brings up an interesting question about when people have opposing energies in their chart. Like, say someone has Sun in Cancer and Moon in Aquarius, for example.
Yes.
And they have that sort of push-pull all the time, and that internal can be conflicting within themselves too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're all full of contradictions. And you can, astrologically, that's so clear when you look at someone's chart. There's many different energies at work. But, speaking of the Sun in Cancer and all the Cancerians having their birthday over these few weeks, we always come back to the Sun sign. So the Sun sign is kind of our primary pathway and purpose and way of functioning and evolving and growing in any incarnation. Yeah. Yeah.
So how would we see the new moon in Cancer playing out in the world stage, do you think? Or have you seen signs of that yet?
Well, I'm not. I think one of the things that can be triggered for people around this is this very strong response to want to protect your home space, literally your home, your loved ones, your children, your family, against perceived and very real threats in the outside world. And, let's face it, there are very real threats in the outside world going on. So Cancer will, around this new moon, I think for some it can be, okay, what do I need to do to perhaps prepare for potential possible threats or harm that might happen to my family, my home, my loved ones? What kind of actions can I take? Because even though it is a very yin feminine sign, it's a cardinal sign. So when Cancer needs to, they will take action.
Yeah.
And it's based on this feeling response to protect.
Yes.
They will act on it, and it might be you go and do a lot of food shopping, like I my moon is in Cancer. So I never run out of food. Like, for me to run out of food is just unthinkable. It's just never going to happen. And if it starts to run down and for whatever reason I haven't been able to restock, I'm getting a bit anxious. There's got to be plenty. And it's this instinct to be able to provide and nourish myself and anyone in my world. So this can really come up for people, like this could be something might get triggered around this. Like, it was that impulse in me, was something you said actually, impulse in me, like, I need to go and get a freezer.
Yes, I remember that.
And I'd already been stocking up a bit anyway. That's natural to me, and I've just been doing a bit more of it. And something really kicked into gear, and I'd gone, okay, let's take this more seriously now.
Yes.
And whether that's required in the future or not, I don't know, but it feels good and right to have that. And that might really come up for people around this new moon.
So how do you think like these lockdowns would affect people with that energy going around at the moment? Like for Cancerians, it wouldn't be too bad because they're locked down in their home and they're quite happy with that, aren't they? Like, they can deal with it.
It's one sign out of all the signs that probably is like, yeah, whatever, they're homebods anyway, by and large.
Yeah.
And they've probably already got plenty of food, in store, because that's just what Cancer does. Or they'll just go, okay, what have I got in the cupboard? Not much, but I can make something out of that, Yeah. And it's coming from this feeling, emotional sense of, I need to protect and provide emotional sustenance, but also real sustenance in the sense of food, and make sure make sure this home space for my family and loved ones feels like a safe haven, a safe place.
Feeling
and that's what Cancer does beautifully. One of my sisters is a Cancerian with a lot of planets in Cancer. That's what I always feel when I go into her place. It just feels like this is a beautiful, nurturing, nourishing home and space. And you just feel comfortable. Walk in the door. Let's have a cup of tea. Here's some food. That's.
Yeah. Actually, that's very Italian.
It is.
I wonder if Italy is governed by, moon in Cancer.
The Italian mama. Have more, have another helping, have more.
Yeah, come in, there's plenty, come in and eat,
Exactly. I would say Cancer's probably got a lot to do. I always think, Italy to me kind of feels like Cancer and Leo, it's passionate and colourful, but that Italian mama thing.
Love all you Italian mamas out there.
Oh, absolutely. And, who wouldn't want a delicious meal cooked by a Cancerian mama?
Yes, exactly. I was lucky enough to have an Italian mother-in-law who's since passed away. And oh my gosh, the food was just like food.
and when people who cook from that place say the most important ingredient is love, they mean it. It's not just like a passing comment. They actually mean it, and it's real.
Yeah. And the other thing she used to say was, like, she always cooked from scratch.
That's right.
It has to be nourishing and wholesome and good quality food. That reminds me of that very Cancerian need for that wholesomeness.
That's exactly right.
And caring. Yeah.
But it is naturally, some people use the word moody, which is fair enough, because it can feel to other people sometimes like, oh, I find it really difficult. He or she's always so moody, but it's this natural withdrawal. And, what's wrong? What's the matter? Oh, nothing. They're not ready to open up and reveal, or they may never talk about it, but they will come out of it if just given space, So many people watching this might start to find themselves experiencing that around these days of this new moon, like this is just wanting to just retreat a bit, and not be too disturbed. And
so when is the exact time of the new moon?
Okay, the exact new moon is on the 10th. And on the east coast of Australia, it'll be at 11:16 a.m. in the morning. So it's on the morning of the 10th, which is Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, the day or two before, the old cycle is closing down. And then there's new. So, people sometimes think that on the new moon is a good time to set new things in motion, but it's actually better to wait for a day or two.
Okay. Why is that?
Because it's like a seed. I mean, you can use the beautiful analogy of a seed, in the balsamic phase, or that dark moon phase just prior to the new moon, as the old cycle is closing. It's like the seed is underground. And then on the new moon, the seed starts to shoot. and it comes up out of the soil, but it's still very, very delicate and fragile. And you know, when you plant things, when you plant a seed, those first two little leaves, it's really hard to identify what plant it's going to be. It's too new, and it's very fragile. And then it grows and it grows stronger, and then you can start to identify, and there's more clarity. So it's really good to give it a day or two before you even set intentions or whatever process people like to do. But it's a seeding time, you know, to consider possibilities and options, but not necessarily act on them right away.
Yes. So that when those two leaves come out of the ground, it's the declaration of the next phase in the plant's life.
That's right. And then it starts to sort of get moving and take shape. And usually by the next couple of sets of leaves, it's very clear, oh, that's a tomato, or that's a parsley, or, you know, you can see it more clearly. And away it goes.
Yeah. So what else is happening in this lunar cycle?
So what else is happening? So, okay, so on the 12th, our dear friend Mercury, who spent quite a long time in the sign of Gemini because he did his retrograde dance, finally, well, not finally, because Mercury loves being in Gemini, but he leaves Gemini and moves into Cancer.
Okay.
So when Mercury, and it'll be in Cancer for about 3 weeks. So when Mercury is in Cancer, that's really interesting, because Mercury, by its very nature, is the thinking mind, communication, analytical, ideas, words. It's not a natural fit for Mercury. It doesn't mean it's a problem if someone has Mercury in Cancer. It just means your style of thinking and what you think about and how you communicate is going to be Cancerian. You're going to, so we're going to find our mind going towards all these Cancerian things we've just been talking about. And that we might be having more conversations and contact with family members, you know, like those conversations. And they might be more, perhaps a little more emotional than, you know, when it was in Gemini. You know, in Gemini, we're exchanging ideas and information's flying around. I mean, boy, oh boy, was information flying around.
Yeah.
It's a real kind of change of pace.
We could get messages from family too, do you think?
Absolutely. You know, that email, that text, that phone call. Or maybe someone you haven't heard of for a while in the family. Yeah. Or conversations that perhaps have needed to be had in the family, family member, that kind of thing. And conversations might get a bit emotional.
Yes. My mum, her birthday is 21st of June, so she's on the cusp of Gemini and Cancer. But we'd always had, she's in aged care now, but we always used to have this telephone telepathy going on between us. So the phone would ring, and I could tell from the tone of this is ridiculous, I know, but the tone of the ring that it was her ringing. It was very strange. And often I would go to pick up the phone and call her, and she'd be doing it at exactly the same time.
Amazing.
And I'd go, hello, thinking, why don't I get the dial tone? And she'd go, hello. And it's her on the other end.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Very, very interesting stuff.
And it was mainly with her that would happen.
Her. Just yeah.
So, you know, the astrologer's mind goes, oh, I wonder how their two Mercuries are connected, you know? Or what are those Mercuries connecting to in each other's chart? But of course, it can also be a mother and child thing anyway.
Yeah, but this was just uncanny. This was very different.
Yeah. And that's very, very Cancer too. Is a highly intuitive sign.
Yeah, it's psychic.
Yeah, psychic, very much. And I think people underestimate that about Cancer.
Yeah. She would often ring me if we'd had a conversation. She'd ring me, and after I'd spent time with her, we'd go out somewhere, and she'd ring me later, and she'd go, you know, I was just wondering, how is this going in your life? How's that going? Like she'd be picking up, like it'd take a while to process. Once we'd had that little bit of time apart, might be the next day, she'd ring and go, how is this happening? Like, what's going on there? It's like she'd start to feel her way into
Yes.
our exchanges the previous day, say.
Yes.
And she'd go, and then she'd ring me and ask me about it. And often she'd be spot on.
Amazing.
Of course, I wouldn't I wouldn't confirm it.
Or necessarily tell her too much.
But it was uncanny, yeah.
Yeah. Uncanny, I think, is a very good word.
Mm.
A very good word. Yeah. I mean, you know, when I think of some people that I personally know with Mercury in Cancer, whether they've got other planets in Cancer or not, their way of communicating is often very affectionate. You know, they'll use words like love and darling and sweetheart. That's Cancer. Whereas, you know, other people don't necessarily speak like that. There's a natural need to be quite just naturally affectionate.
Yeah.
That's what they do, you know. Yeah. So the language is reflected by the sign that Mercury is in.
Actually, our physical appearance, our thinking patterns, our behavior is all reflected in our sign, isn't it?
It really is. It really is, yeah. And if you're listening, you can hear people speaking it.
Yes, yeah.
You know? Yeah, it's fascinating. Now, then the following day, so this is all just sort of coming on after the new moon, something very interesting happens, and we touched on this last time. On the 13th, there is a conjunction or a joining or a coming together of the planet Venus and Mars at 19 degrees of Leo.
That's
so right. So that's super interesting to me. I'm watching that one closely. So, you know, Venus is approaching Mars now. They're both in Leo, and Venus moves a bit more quickly than Mars. So Venus is sort of in the sky. Venus is coming in behind Mars, and on the 13th, they will be exactly the same degree. So pretty much all around that week, those two planets will be in the sky together at 19 degrees of Leo. And when two planets come together, it's like the new moon, sun and moon come together. Any two bodies in the sky come together, it's a meeting with the sense of they're beginning a new story together. And so what are Venus and Mars? You know, Venus is the feminine principle of love, the love light of the heart, the goddess, the feminine creative expression. Mars is the masculine principle of action. You know, at its best, it's the really clear, warrior of truth and so on. But it's also literally man and woman, or, you know, just the principle of man and woman, masculine.
Yeah. I'm thinking when Venus and Mars get together and have a kid in Leo, that kid's going to be the boss of them.
I know. I mean, this is like if we sort of turn this into a story, this is a pretty passionate love affair. You know, Venus meets Mars in Leo, like fireworks, passion, heat. You know, Leo is not a quiet, subdued energy.
It's probably the child of that union is the ones who invented that phrase, "You're not the boss of me."
That's right. And it's kind of interesting because you'll hear children who've got Leo strong in their chart, they will say that. They will literally, you know, my daughter at the age of 3, I don't even know where she'd heard it before.
Yeah.
Maybe never heard it. Mars in Leo, she very clearly told me that one day. Like, whoa, yeah. You know, it's a declaration of I'm myself and you can't tell me what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's very Mars. Venus wants to connect and relate and share and come together in a heartfelt way, but in a passionate way. It's a very colorful sign. You know, you said like Cancer, and the moon is very kind of silver. It's the white, the soft silvery colors, the muted colors of the night sky with the moon. Leo is all yellow and gold and hot pink and red. So this is a pretty passionate combination. So I think, you know, again, I'm super curious I mean, I've already felt it. I've already noticed it, even with both these two planets in Leo. Like, it can really bring our fire energy up. Those of us who have fire or planets in Leo, it can really bring it forward and just go, well, I'm not having that, you know, and you have to take action and so on and express ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
Very.
And that Leo energy likes to be on the world stage too. It likes to, you know, I find that Leos particularly, they tend to be, they might be a DJ, they might be on radio, they might be a performer or something like that, you know, that they're on a stage somewhere, somehow.
Exactly. And that stage might be they're a teacher, they're a politician, they're a leader, you know, that's right. You know, it's the sign of royalty, of kings and queens and so on. It's ruled by the sun, so it's not a sign that's meant to hide its light, you know, behind the scenes, unless it's in the 12th house. But it's really to say, here I am, this is me, and to express itself and to be seen and acknowledged. And you know, people worry that Leo's all about ego. Well, you know, ego is a fact of human life. You know, nobody lives a human life without one.
No, you need it.
We need it, absolutely. It's how we function. And I think a healthy Leo energy is a wondrous thing. It's the heart of the lion. And I think this combination of Venus and Leo is about what do you love and how much are you prepared to stand for that and even fight for that if necessary. You know, the love is Venus and Mars is that warrior of action. So this is going to be very interesting to watch. And I'm already noticing interesting things going on. And on that day and around those days of that conjunction, that's what astrologers do. They're always paying attention to what's going on around them because they're tracking transits and planets and movements.
Yeah. So what comes after that?
So after that, then so the Venus-Mars conjunction will sort of continue to unfold. Venus will start to pull away in the following days and weeks and months because she moves a bit, you know, more quickly than Mars. After that, on the 18th, the Sun, still in Cancer, will be coming towards the end of Cancer, and over a period of a few days will make an opposition to Pluto.
Okay.
Slowly making his way through the last few degrees of Capricorn. You know, and we know how important that long journey of Pluto through Capricorn has been for the world, everything and everyone. So when the Sun makes an opposition to that Pluto, and the actual date is the 18th, when the Sun's at 25 Cancer, the Pluto's at 25 Capricorn, that could be quite a strong, important day for people as well. You know, Pluto's a powerful energy of power and death and rebirth and transformation. Things can get quite intense, you know. And then on the 22nd, Venus does actually leave Leo.
Okay.
Yep. And, you know, Venus is in a sign, it varies a lot because she'll have a retrograde phase every 20 months or so, but, you know, it can be like 3 to 4 weeks or up to, you know, 6 weeks or so. So she will leave Leo. So all that passionate urge to create and express ourselves and shine the light, all of a sudden we go, okay, that's enough for now. I think I need to pull that back a bit and tone it down.
Yeah.
You know, and we will, it's so fascinating watching these things as these planets move and change signs and so on. Suddenly the energy shifts and our responses have changed. And we go, oh, okay, I think I might just kind of look at the state of my place. I need to tidy it all up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I noticed that recently, actually, not so much about my place, but I noticed that shift in energy in the world stage, in the area of interest that I have. And it was like for the month of May, everything was going boom, 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 because May was very lots of information.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it just went,
Yes.
and I went, oh, okay, where did that go? You know,
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
It is. It's very interesting.
Really amazing. So Venus in Virgo. So Virgo is Earth, of course. So, you know, Virgo is a more quiet energy. Virgo is not comfortable on the stage.
No.
With the spotlight. Leo is meant to shine.
Yeah.
It's all about the sun, but Virgo is not. It's a more subtle energy. It's more like Virgo people are often naturally quite shy and reserved. There's a sensitivity here.
Mm.
So a beautiful way to use Venus in Virgo is, you know, I always say about Venus, think about what you love. So somebody with Venus in Virgo in their birth chart when they were born, what they love is refined things, subtle things, precision, order. Their aesthetic taste would be, whereas Venus in Leo's aesthetics is huge, big canvas, lots of bold colors, let's splash it around, you know?
Mm.
Virgo's aesthetic is much more subtle, more subdued. It's not bright colors. It might be, you know, those amazing paintings that you see that might be quite small and someone with a very fine brushes delicately painting flowers and plants.
Yes, yes.
You know, fauna. It's extraordinary.
Mm.
I mean, it really, that's very Virgo to me.
Details. Mm.
Crafts, you know.
Yes.
But it can also be around work, you know. Virgo's a sign of very much of, you know, getting on with things, taking care of the details, working in the garden.
Mm. Mm.
Virgo, you know, earthy.
Yeah.
So that's quite a shift that will happen. So we get the conjunction of Venus and Mars at 19 of Leo. And then what does that look like? That's about nearly 19 days later, Venus will leave Leo and go into Virgo. So there'll be a noticeable change in energy. And we will just get a bit more detail oriented.
So how long does Venus stay in Virgo? How long does it stay in?
I didn't check exactly because it can vary a little bit, but it's roughly around 4 weeks.
Oh, okay.
It'll be about 4 weeks.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the next day, again, there's another change. It's kind of layers of all these different energies that come in. The sun will leave the watery realms of Cancer, step out of the sea, if you like, and want to, you know, be under the blazing sun. It goes into Leo.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the sun will come home to its own sign on the 23rd.
Ah.
Yes. So whoa, because I mean, any time a planet moves into its own sign, happy as could be.
Yeah.
You know, it can now be in its full power, its natural self, its true nature. So the sun will be in Leo. So then all the Leos will be having their birthdays for the 4 weeks following that. Amazing time for, you know, anyone who has any kind of form of creative expression in their life, like just go for it. You know, now all Venus and Mars are here, and then when the sun comes in, we're in that kind of Leo stage of the year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And play, fun, the inner child. Yeah.
All that stuff.
And it's also about kind of showing up, you know, coming out.
Yeah.
You know, coming out, like in Cancer, we get to withdraw and retreat a bit. And then when we've had that, we step out and go, okay, time to come out again.
Yes.
And out we go. Out we come.
Yeah. And Leo's, you know, it's again, some people might find themselves being drawn to having their face out there. You know, people who wanted to do something like we're doing here might suddenly go, I think I'm going to do that too. You know, my own.
That's right.
I'm going to get my face out there. I'm going to let people know who I am, all that sort of thing. Yeah, what I do. Yeah.
That's right. And prior to that, they might have felt a bit like, oh, I don't really want to have like a public face like that. But in Leo, whether you like it or not, that has to happen. It has to be, it's like you have to show up.
Yes. Yeah.
and show who you are.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let the public know. Express yourself and let them know.
That's right. In whatever way you do, in whatever way, you know, is needed in your life, in your story.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what Leo is about.
Yeah.
So the sun will go into Leo, and that will then lead us into the full moon on the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because on the 23rd, the sun goes into Leo, on the 24th, the sun will be 1 degree further on in Leo, it will be at 1 degree. So the moon, full moon, will be at 1 degree of Aquarius. So that is going to be a Leo Aquarius full moon.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, very different energy, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Very different. So those signs are more high energy, more out there. I think there's a lot of light. I find there's a lot of light in those two signs. You know, Leo is the light of the sun, but the light of the radiant self, and Aquarius is literally the light of consciousness.
Consciousness, yeah. I was just thinking that, yeah. So the sun's sort of shining on. It's about putting consciousness on the world stage, really.
Exactly.
How are we thinking? What is what's our awareness level? That sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, where are we at?
Yes, where are we at? And that polarity of those two signs. So Leo is the self and the individual sense of who I am and showing up as that. And Aquarius, the polar opposite, is about the group consciousness. So when those two signs are working really well together, and this is the potential of the full moon here, it's the self showing up perhaps in some kind of leadership role in a small way or a big way for, with, and on behalf of the group. Yeah. So they have this important connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because the full moon will be at 1 degree of Aquarius, it's actually going to be very close to Pluto at the end of Capricorn. So it's going to have a Plutonic vibe. So that full moon, which is the halfway point of this lunar cycle, which begins at this new moon, could be pretty powerful, I think. Quite a potent full moon.
Yeah, I won't go into it too much because we'll cover it in another couple of weeks, but I'm just thinking about, and I can see we're already headed there. There's this, you know, I'll just say this about Queensland's Premier, who's leaving the state, or wants to leave the state to go to Tokyo for the Olympic bid to bring it to Brisbane, which is where we are. And a politician was saying, sure, fine, let it go, but let it get back in line behind all the other Australians who want to come in back into the country, right? So there's this sense of equality.
Yes.
So the awareness will be about the I want to say equality, but it's like the leveling of the world stage for everybody.
Exactly. And that's Aquarius, because Leo can go into the privilege of the individual who's important.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the negative expression of Leo. You know, I'm more important than you, so I get to do what I want because I'm privileged.
Absolutely. Yes.
And Aquarius won't have a bar of that.
No. And I'm already seeing that energy is coming right in right now. You know,
yes,
it's a tangential energy, isn't it? It builds up.
It does.
It builds up to this peak. Yeah.
That's right. And that's what happens at full moons, isn't it? The energy from the new moon, the new seeding, it builds and builds and builds, and it does peak at the full moon stage of that cycle. It's like, boom, there it is.
Well, we will have lots to say in the next lunar cycle about that.
We shall, because there's a lot going on. You know, we're coming out of that really powerful T-square between Uranus, Mars, and Saturn in the last week or two. It's been intense. It's been very strong. And there's a lot more that's going to keep unfolding in these coming days and weeks.
Mm.
Mm.
Yes, and the public will have their eye on it, as they always do.
Yes.
Our leaders should know.
Yes.
I just love to get political here, but I won't. Anyway.
No, I know. We could really go to town.
Well, it is interesting to give examples to show how these things are playing out.
That's right. Because it's playing out all around us in all kinds of ways, in our own personal life story and out in there in the bigger, wider field. Absolutely it is.
Yeah.
All happening.
Yes, it is. So here we are, traveling further and further into the age of Aquarius.
Yes.
Watching all of these things take place, following the star trails. So anyone who's watching this, make sure that if you want to keep up with everything that's going on, just with Babula and I, what we're talking about from the full moon to the new moon, the full moon, new moon, make sure you give us a thumbs up, a big like, and subscribe to the channel, and you'll get notification. And remember to tap that bell so you get the notifications that we have just uploaded the recording. So until next time, thank you, Babula, for your wonderful words.
Sheryl. Very enjoyable as always.
All your knowledge. Wonderful to share that. And we will see you again in a couple of weeks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.